welcome or welcome back to my channel. My name is Tori. If you're new, I'm so excited that you're here. I hope that you're having the most wonderful day of your entire stinking life. We're starting a weekly reading vlog. It's the first official week of Romantasyathon. Let's talk about all of the books that I'm hoping to read this week and just let me live in my Delulu. I feel I have a good mix of Kindle books, I have audiobooks, and I have 2 physical books, but I do have the audiobooks for both of these. So I am hoping to read A Curse of Blood and Wolves by Melissa McTernan. This is the Fairy Loot edition and she is so beautiful. I'm hoping that I have a good experience with this one. I've started to see some reviews and they're quite mixed, but I think this will be a very unserious, spicy time about a werewolf and a girlie that's being stalked through the woods. That's like into being stalked through the woods. Then I have a YA fantasy series that has a hint of romance. It's very like friends to lovers. It is The Perilous Sea by Sherry Thomas. I read The Burning Sky, which is the first book, last month. I gave it 4 stars. I really enjoyed this writing style and the audiobooks are incredible. So we have the audiobook for this one as well. And then the rest are on my Kindle. So one I have already started. It is The Ruined by Readathon. It is the 4th and final book in her Beautiful and the Damned series. I think that's what it's called. This is one I'm a bit nervous for as well because it has one of the lowest star ratings on Goodreads that I've ever seen. And then the other books that I have on my Kindle are both novellas. So I have Wicked is the Reaper. I'm a little disappointed because I thought it was on Kindle Unlimited. It is a book that you have to purchase on your Kindle. It's like $4, but I thought it was on Kindle Unlimited. So I did find the audiobook for Wicked is the Reaper. This is just a very spicy, I think it's a captive fantasy romance. I found the audiobook for it on Everend and I'm really questioning my sanity because I feel like this is a book that I would connect with a lot more if I read it just on my Kindle. I feel like having someone read this audiobook to me, we'll see how it goes. And then the other novella that I have on my Kindle is Spindles and Thorns. This is a Sleeping Beauty retelling. This is a book I saw on, I think it was Book Talk or maybe it was Bookstagram. I saw very little information about it and I was like, yes, I do want to read that. So that one is 248 pages by Melanie Karsak. I've never read anything by this author before, so we'll see how it goes. Very mixed TBR. It should be an interesting time. I hope that you're excited. If you are, please be sure to give this video a big thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and let's get to reading. First reading check-in for The Ruined. I'm now on page 91. This is, like I mentioned, the 4th book in a series. It's the 4th and last book, so I will not spoil absolutely anything at all, just give overall thoughts, but it's really interesting this direction that the series went into. I mentioned this is the lowest rated book that I've ever seen on Goodreads. It has a straight 3.0 the last time that I checked, which is crazy. I'm not mad at the direction the series decided to go to. This is a series that starts off with vampires, it has werewolves, and then we start to get a lot more magical creatures and the magical world really begins to expand. We got left on a massive cliffhanger from the 3rd book. It took Readathon a really long time, if memory serves, to come up with this last and final book. This book came out, I want to say December of 2023. So far I am enjoying it. I really like Readathon's writing style. She writes very descriptive, lyrical, beautiful. I think her characters are well fleshed out. It's just the plot and the direction that she decided to take this series in. So I'm happy to be back in the world. I love the characters. I'm excited to see what's going on. I'm excited to see if we refocus on romance because romance was a big part of the 3rd book. 1st book and 3rd book. So I'm excited to see the conclusions to some of the romances that we're building, especially in the 3rd book. We got like a new romance that we were introduced to. So I think that's the update for now. I have to start cleaning this house because it's an absolute tragic mess. And so I think I'm gonna switch to the audiobook for Wicked is the Reaper, and I'm nervous for that one, so I will update with how that goes. Been cleaning, I have been listening to Wicked is the Reaper, and I just wanted to give a brief synopsis of it before I finish it in 25 minutes. So it's been super fast. It's actually been a better audiobook than what I was expecting. The writing is not as cringe as I was expecting it to be, and although there's been some spice, it's not 90% spice, 10% plot. Like, I've read some romantasy novellas that are spicy where you literally only get them in the introduction. You learn a little bit of their backstories and then the rest of it is all spice. That is not this book. I feel like there's actually good angst. There was a build up, even though this book is only, I think, 150 pages or somewhere around there. Good build up, good angst. The dialogue isn't super cringe. He calls her princess. It's a really fun captive. Basically, the synopsis of this book, our main character, Rowan, I believe, she is the eldest daughter of the king and queen. She's a princess, and to determine who she has to marry, their tradition is that the males, or the men, in her village, town, kingdom, one of those, has to go out and hunt for the biggest stag in the woods and like present it to her and her family on the given day, on the betrothal day. She has had someone who she's been like promised to in her village. She's kind of accepted that although they aren't in love with each other, he's like, okay. And she's like, I'll deal with him. You know, we get along. It's more of a friendship. It's more of a marriage of convenience, but it is what it is. At least it's not some like crazy guy or Reaper creature. Flash forward. On the day of the betrothal ritual, the Reaper comes out of the woods wearing this like skull mask, dressed in all black, carrying the biggest stag anyone has ever seen. Come to find out, he wants to use her as bait to kill this like ogre. But as they get to know each other, he has more and more trouble doing like what he wants to do with her. I liked that it wasn't just right off the bat attraction. It was a little bit slower paced, and now we're getting into the spicy bits. Also, this man, his name is Wicked. So like Wicked is the Reaper, Wicked is his name. Absolutely love that. He takes off the skull mask. He's not truly a monster. Long black hair, I think it's like shoulder length. He's covered in tattoos. It's simple, it's to the point, it's really fun. So I just have a couple more things to clean. I'm going to vacuum the couch and then finish washing my bedding because my allergies have really been bothering me lately. That was my motivation to be like, we absolutely need to do a deep clean today because the house is atrocious. I'm allergic to dust, and I'm also mildly allergic to JMO, my dog, so. Wicked is the Reaper is completed, as we would have just seen. We updated our reading journal. I'm trying to figure out what I want to read next. I ended up giving Wicked is the Reaper 3.5 stars. I thought it was bordering on 3 stars for me is good, not great. I thought it was like right in between. If they didn't say the L word at the end, I would have given it 4 stars, but they started to say I love you towards the end of it, and I was like, y'all have known each other for literally 2 weeks at the most, so what's going on? But it was really fun. It was very enjoyable. Audiobook better than I thought it was gonna be. I found it on Everend, so I'm glad I didn't have to purchase that ebook. And now I think the strategy is going to be for another really quick, spicy fantasy romance. So I think next we're gonna do A Curse of Blood and Wolves. I wanna do this one next because the strategy is if this one turns out to be pretty mid, which people who I know, love, and trust have read this and said it was like very average, then I can follow it up with one that I know is gonna be really good. You know what I mean? So synopsis for this before I jump in, I think I mentioned a little bit. It is a Little Red Riding Hood retelling. I'm gonna use this book for my, I used Wicked as the Reaper for my fast burn trope as well. I know I showed it in my journal, but just to say it out loud, I'm gonna use this one as my retelling trope. And I kind of mentioned it, but our main character's name is Ruby. She has to travel through the woods for a reason that we don't know yet. And she knows that she should be scared when she feels the eyes of a stranger watching her, that she should run away, but she can't. Instead, she feels a thrill, feels drawn to the stranger who follows her in the woods, yearns for his eyes on her every night as she walks home, hoping to hear the crunch of leaves under his feet that signals he's there. I have some unfortunate news. I'm 5 chapters into this book and I just don't think it's gonna work out. So I'm actually gonna list this on my Pango. If you would like a really gorgeous copy of this book, beautiful sprayed edges, it will be listed on my Pango when this video goes up. So you can go check that out. It's linked down below. And I'm going to switch to a book that I didn't say on my original TBR because I want an audiobook and I'm not quite ready to dive into The Perilous Sea because again, I want like another fantasy romance and I'm gonna save that for after. So I'm gonna switch to another book that's on my June TBR called Entreat Me by Grace Drabin. I have seen Grace Drabin all over the book community, Bookstagram, Book Talk, and I've never read anything by her. She has a pretty extensive backlist. So I'm excited to dive into this. I'm hopeful that her writing style will vibe with me a little bit more. So I'm gonna use Entreat Me as my dark fantasy read because it comes off, at least from the summary, as a bit darker. You could also use this as a retelling or a fairy tale, I believe. Summary for this one. This is a tale of vengeance and devotion. We have a warlord who is afflicted by a centuries-old curse. He surrenders his humanity and descends towards madness. He is the Ballard of Kitach Tor and holds no hope of escaping his fate until his son returns home one day accompanied by a woman of incomparable beauty. His family believes her arrival may herald Ballard's salvation until they confront her elder sister, who is determined to rescue her sister from ruin. I don't know how to pronounce this main character's first name, so hopefully the audiobook will help me, but I think it's Louvain. Louvain pursues her to a decrepit castle and discovers a household imprisoned in time. There is dark magic, threatening sorcerers, a malevolent climbing rose with a thirst for blood, and it won't deter her, but a proud man disfigured by an undying hatred might. It sounds dark, it sounds creepy deeps. Babes, I'm now 20% into Entreat Me, and I wanted to give a little bit of an update because this was a big change from the spicy novellas that I was just reading and the writing style that was The Curse of Blood and Wolves or whatever that book was called. I don't know if Louvain is going to end up like falling in love with this dad. I don't know what the real like love connection is quite yet. However, it's much darker than I thought it was going to be. It's kind of giving vibes of like a To Bleed a Crystal Bloom, except it's definitely a little bit darker. And it also has a writing style that is very, very similar to Vela Roth. It's a little bit difficult to understand. There's a ton of descriptions and sometimes you're asking yourself like, do I need this much description about like the outside of this fortress? Like, let's get inside, like let's get to the plot. But it's really interesting. It's a beautiful writing style, just like Vela Roth. It's a beautiful writing style. I don't think it's going to be for everybody, but I'm kind of enjoying it because I have the audiobook. I think that's really helping me along. I think the characters are interesting and I'm just intrigued to know more at this point. So I'm going to try to listen up to 50 to 60%. And I think that will put me in a good spot to finish this book tomorrow, and then we can get on to our next one. So I will check in a little bit. The naming conventions in this book are like so extra for no reason. Also, the fortress that they live in is called something so random and weird. Hold on, I need to look it up. I feel like if I say them out loud, I'll remember them better for the next couple updates. The fortress that they live in is called Tor. Like, that's so random and so weird. Anyways, it's a vibe. Hi besties, we're gonna get ready together and talk about an update for Entreat Me. So since I last update, I feel like I left you with some very random things. I was like, this is his name, this is the dad's name, and oh my god, they're so weird together. Both of those things are true. I feel like this book, the characters are very well done. And what I'm really enjoying is that they're definitely weird and they have their own personalities. And it feels very different than anything else that I have read. And maybe it's because of the age range. So we don't specifically get ages. However, they are like a little bit later in life. Like our main girly pop, Louvain, she's been married once before and her husband passed away, so she's a widower, but I think she's in her either like late 20s or she's in like her early 30s. That's where I like imagine her. And his first name is Ballad. I also can't see you very well because I don't have my contacts in yet. We're doing such a good job. So they're both a little bit later in life. Ballad was married, his wife passed away, so I guess he's a widower as well, technically. He has a son who is ready to get married. I don't know what age they are, and obviously Louvain's little sister is courting Ballad's son, and his name is Gavin. So he's older. I want to say he's in his like, I would imagine he has to be like in his 50s, except it says that he's like centuries old, so I don't know, do with that what you will. Sometimes centuries old means that they look like they're in their 20s, but because it mentions his description where this man is cursed, he has a centuries old curse on him and his body is deformed and he has like scars everywhere, and I mentioned he has claws and he's not like the most attractive. And then also Louvain is described as like comely, which I think means not very pretty, and also her younger sister is like gorgeous. She's like the fairest maiden within 6 villages or whatever. Like she's like very, very good looking and like blonde hair, blue eyes, just like the cutest little person in the whole world. Like I just love the way that it's written because it's not your usual female protagonist and not your usual male love interest who's also like the most handsome, beautiful person in the whole world. And even though it's kind of giving Beauty and the Beast retelling because like he turns into a beast, but he's kind of beastly all the time, and there are certain times where I mentioned he has to get chained up, and it's when the flux increases. I have no idea what that means, but I'm assuming it means there's like an influx of magic and that makes his curse physically hurt him. Like he screams out in pain and you can hear him through the entire fortress castle. So that happens during certain periods of time, and Louvain is just like, yeah, I'm fine with that. So they start to get spicy actually pretty quickly. Their chemistry develops quite quickly. I am 66% of the way through. I'm going to finish it today. I only have 2.5 hours left of the audiobook. Honestly, having a great time. I think it's gonna fall as like a 4-star for me. So I will check in once I finish and then we'll decide what to read next. We have just finished Entreat Me. I will say the last 40% of that book, 35% of that book, the pacing did kind of falter for me. It's a very slow-paced book. Like honestly, if you like Vela Roth's writing, you will love the writing style, and I feel like the pacing is also similar, except Vela Roth writes like 700+ page books. Entreat Me was only 350-ish, somewhere around there, maybe 400. The audiobook felt long though, because everything was so slowly paced. The ending had a trope that I really don't like. It's a new to me trope. It was also in Lady of Darkness, where the antagonist in the story is someone who uses blackmail to try to get to marry one of our characters. And I really just hate it so much. Like when they get taken hostage or like captured and he's like blackmailing and he's like, I get what I want and like I want to marry this person, and you're like, gross. It's just not my favorite thing. It makes me feel very icky. And that happened at the end of the book. So I checked out a little bit. I think it did impact my star rating. So I said that it was probably going to be a 4-star. I ended up giving it a 3.5 because I did still really enjoy the majority of the book, the characterization, like I mentioned, all of that stuff. So 3.5. I'm interested in reading more from Grace Draven just to give her like another try. She has some series that are really popular. She has her Wraith Kings series. The first book is called Radiance. I'd be interested in reading that one, or there was another one, her Fallen Empire series. So that first book is Phoenix Unbound. Just to continue to dabble and see if maybe it was just this book, which is a standalone as well. Maybe I'll enjoy her series and maybe those are paced a little bit differently. I am debating on what prompt to count it for because I was going to use it as my dark fantasy. It wasn't as dark as what I was expecting. It was actually a pretty soft-hearted fantasy romance. It really reminded me in certain aspects of Sword Heart by T. Kingfisher. It's not as silly goofy as Sword Heart is, but that's another fantasy romance where the characters are a little bit older in age, and I just loved their dynamic. They were also very, very snarky with each other, so like the banter back and forth was similar as well, but very different writing style. I might use it as my retelling prompt. It's not like directly said that it's a Beauty and the Beast retelling, but it's like so adjacent that I'm like, I think I'm gonna use it as my retelling, because my retelling was going to be A Curse of Blood and Wolves, and we DNF'd that one. So I might use it as my retelling or my new to me author. We're gonna go to The Perilous Sea by Sherry Thomas because I can't wait to get to this one. This is going to be my epic quest prompt. It's the second book in the Burning Sky series. It has the best, one of the best elemental magic worlds that I have ever been in. It's YA. The romance is so slow burn. She like absolutely freaking hates him and he is like so in love with her. I can't wait to get back with these characters. So like I mentioned, I have the audiobook for this one. I have some physical reading that I need to do from The Ruined by Renee Audier today because I'm supposed to read my section of that yesterday and that never ended up happening. So I need to play some catch up with The Ruined, and then we're gonna be listening to The Perilous Sea. Hello besties. It has been a little while since my last check-in, but I am now just over the halfway point in the Perilous Sea. I am on sprints right now. It is Sunday morning reading sprints, having the best time. My Romantasyathon merch came in today and it's so comfy, so obviously I had to wear it. Updates on the Perilous Sea. This book has taken a very interesting turn from the first one. We have dual timelines going on. I'm not gonna lie, I was trying to listen to just the audiobook to start and I was getting very confused, so I did end up having to switch to reading physically because I wasn't expecting the dual timeline. It wasn't in the first book, but I love what's happening with it in this one. We still at the halfway point have like no idea what's going on because it's the same characters in the dual timelines. They're at what seems like very different places, but I'm assuming the timeline that's in the past by the end of the book is gonna catch up to this timeline that we're following in the future. And I'm still just having a great time. I feel like the magic in this is so fun. They talk about spell casting with wands, and I just think there's one book series that like everyone thinks of when we think about like mages and spells, learning how to cast spells with wands and all of that stuff. This book does it so well and it's so fun and it's not overcomplicated. Like obviously it's a YA series. The explanations are just so simple and believable, like well thought out. I feel like all of this is so vague and it probably won't make a lot of sense, but just know I'm having a really great time. I want more people to read and talk about this series. It's such a good YA action-packed series. This one definitely has, I think, a bit more action than the first one did. This has much more suspense woven through the entire thing because of the dual timeline, which has been so fun. So the goal is to finish this today. I'm on page 240. I'm about 60% of the way through. These reading sprints have been so helpful. I literally started this today on page like 100 or something. We've gotten so much reading done. So we still have 21 minutes left in these sprints. I'm going to use that time wisely. And then I will probably check in once I finish this. And then we have one more book on the TBR for this vlog, and that is Spindles and Thorns. So we're gonna try to squeeze that in today. I know that's crazy, but today is just going to be a reading day, and then we can start off. Tomorrow is Monday, and I wanna start like a new vlog tomorrow. So that is the plan. I'll check in a little bit. Hi besties, I'm here to do a final check-in for this weekly reading vlog. I did end up finishing The Perilous Sea by Sherry Thomas. I just finished it this morning because yesterday I didn't do as much reading as I was hoping to. I think I'm gonna give this 3.5 stars. It's a difficult decision, but I feel like this year I've been reading a lot of series. I've been reading a lot of second books, and I think that this had second book syndrome, which is tough because it's a trilogy. So it's kind of like middle book, second book syndrome. What I found to be a little bit much was from the 60% mark to the end of the book, we get a ton of reveals. And I was kind of just like, okay. In this book, we're questioning like, who is the chosen one of the series? I think we end up deciding maybe there's not a chosen one. There's a lot of interconnections between characters that I was kind of like, whoa, okay, didn't know we were doing that. And then the final thing that I realized, I loved the ending of this book, but I think the middle of it and all of those reveals were okay. The end was good. I like where we got to set up the final book in the series. I'm very excited to read the final book. I will definitely be getting to it soon. If not the end of June, then definitely in July. Our main antagonist in this book, in the series, is called the Bane. He is like this crazy, powerful mage. You don't interact with him at all in the first or second books. Like we got him just the very smidgen at the end. We got to see him. And I was like, this is the first time we're actually interacting with, and not even, it's like, he's so on the periphery. For me, if you're giving me a big bad, I want you to prove how big and bad they are. And don't just tell me how big and bad they are. I want you to show me how big and bad they are. If I had to be like super specific, I would give it a 3.75, like a little bit closer to a 4-star. But where I gave the first book a 4-star, this one wasn't as good as that first one, so I can't give it a 4-star with my full chest, if that makes sense. I didn't get to read any more of The Ruined because it's a buddy read and we were all doing life things over this past weekend. I was setting up my gaming PC and my desk, which was a very worthwhile cause. I had so much fun, so I'm not mad that I didn't read as much as I wanted to this weekend. But The Ruined, we're at 40%, and I'm trying to think of how I want to give a final update on that book. I'll probably include it in next week's vlog, so you will see like my final thoughts, but right now, how I'm generally feeling about the overall series, I have moved away from our two main characters, Celine and Bastian, being my favorites. I feel like their romance, when you got the secondary romance that happens in the series, their romance paled in comparison. And now I'm like, but wait, I want these other characters. I want them to be like the main focus again, because the third book, it focuses on a different set of characters. And at first I was like, no, I want Celine and Bastian. And then I was like, no, I want these second characters. Their romance is literally so much better. I feel like the series has, as I've continued to read it, it's gotten like less and less and less enjoyable. I need to keep a consistent pace with it over the next couple days, otherwise I will definitely like fully lose interest in it. It's not grabbing me the way that the first book really grabbed me. And I think that that's how a lot of people felt with the series. So you will see that in the next vlog, as well as Spindles and Thorns. But with that, my friends, I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, please be sure to give it a big thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, leave the wave emoji if you've watched this far and you would like to let me know that you were here for The Perilous Sea with its kind of wavy cover. I'll catch you in the comments. I will see you in my next video on Thursday. Toodles!